But I think the main things is at the end of the day, volleyball is volleyball. It's in the same 9x9 court, and the rules are the same. So we. Is that on the back of your shirt?
Yeah, it's on the back of the shirt.
You did. A little free shout out for you. And it doesn't matter who's on the other side of the net. You need to still execute to the best of your ability if you want a chance to win.
That's right, Bresh Walsh. Volleyball is played in a 9x9 court, and this is the 9x9, the 81 square meters of the best volleyball content on the internet. My name is Everett Delorme, coming in from Ottawa. To my right, on your left, if you're watching this, is the one, the only, Mr. VLA, if you will, Mr. Rob St. Clair, coming in from Chi-Town. It has been, we're down to the nitty gritty, Rob. This is the most intense part of the professional season. We've got Champions League. We've got CEV Cup. The playoffs are in full swing across Europe, and there's so much to talk to. But first and foremost, let's start with the CEV Champions League, as we now know what the semifinals are going to look like on the men's side. Whoo-wee, this is going to be good. Zaksa taking on Perugia, Halkbank taking on JSW. Where do we want to start here, Rob? What match are we talking about first?
Oh, man. So, yeah,
boy,
was it a week last week in CEV. I think last Wednesday, we said a couple weeks ago on the show that we had a day, I think it was the first Lega men's quarterfinals, that was the most fun day of CEV of the year. This past Wednesday, it was absolutely the most fun day of CEV of the year. And with the second leg of these quarterfinals, and there's a little CEV Cup drama in there, a couple golden sets. So we'll get into all of that. But here we now have confirmation of the semifinals. Zaksa versus Perugia will be one of them. That'll be fireworks. And Jastrzębski versus Halkbank ANKARA, I think that'll be fireworks as well. So Final Four of Europe on the men's side is set. How we got there, no surprise in this one. Jastrzębski completely destroyed Friedrichshafen in the second leg. It was like 24, like 14, 20, and 16. Get out of here. Thanks for participating, Friedrichshafen. Good job. Go home and let the big boys play the rest of the tournament. Anything else to add to this, or can we move on?
No, let's just move on. I mean, I love Friedrichshafen. We got a bunch of Canadian guys on that, but they're just not up to the task when it comes to trying to get into the semifinals of the Champions League.
Nope. So Friedrichshafen out, tied for fifth. Jastrzębski advances. They were the number one seed in the bracket, as you may remember. We'll talk about those bracket seedings certainly later on. And the series that actually brought a lot more drama than a lot of us expected, and a series and a match on last Wednesday that I really enjoyed watching, was Berlin versus Perugia. Now, Perugia does advance like we all expected, but I got to give a ton of credit to the Berlin Recycling Volleys, going up 2-1, like legitimately scaring Perugia in Italy and making this a way more competitive series than any of us thought. Huge credit to Berlin for the fight that they showed, but in the end, it's the tournament favorites, Perugia, who go on to the semis, like we all expected, but not quite as convincing or one-sided to get there.
Absolutely. I think Berlin kind of gained a little bit of my respect, but it's interesting to see how Berlin is in the Champions League versus how they are in the Bundesliga, even more so because there's no foreigner rules in the Bundesliga. So what you have in the Champions League, like, there's not any, like, it's no different to what it is in the Bundesliga, but still Berlin went out there and balled. I think guys like Sotola really raised their level and raised their stock in the overall volleyball world.
Yeah, Sotola got blocked a lot. Got blocked 10 times, but was obviously Berlin's primary scorer. I thought that he was better, actually, than both Perugia opposites. And Kamil Rykliski started the match. We see Herrera much? Yeah, I mean, we saw him in the meaningless fifth set. Once Perugia won the fourth, it was over. But I thought that the way that Sotola played, both mostly on the eye test, he would have been better than either Perugia opposite. And I agree with you. I think a guy like Sotola really has increased his stock throughout this club season and is set to maybe make a move upwards in the offseason. And I know I've been looking at the chat already. There's a lot of rumors about transfers for next year. And I just wanted to reiterate our philosophy on that we're not going to talk about any of that right now, because there's still club volleyball being played. We don't like addressing all these transfer rumors for next season before this season's even over. So we'll do a dedicated show for all the offseason moves later on after club season is over. We're going to stay away from that for now. But a guy like Sotola, the way he's played and dominated the Bundesliga, if he were to move up to a league like Italy or Poland, it would be well-deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting in this one, Leon starting on the bench, but Semeniuk, just not looking great. It's quite clear to me that he hasn't been 100% comfortable this year in Perugia. He's not the Semeniuk that we've known from years past playing for Zaksa, but of course Zaksa is his hometown club. It's the club that he grew up with. It's the club that groomed him. So, a different country, different language, so many different things for Kamil Semeniuk. And I mean, I think it's interesting in general that Leon started on the bench, but when you have Plotnitsky and Semeniuk and the roster that Perugia doesn't really matter.
This has been a nice topic of conversation in the Discord the last couple weeks is what has happened to Kamil Semeniuk this year. And there is a school of thought that I've seen from some people talking in the Discord, which you should join, by the way, if you haven't already, that Semeniuk actually hasn't had that bad of a year at all. He just happens to be sitting behind two of the best outside hitters on the planet. And you could argue with the seasons that both Wilfredo Leon and Ole Plotnitsky had, you could absolutely argue that. I mean, Plotnitsky's stat line in this one, 14 for 23, 0 errors, a block, and 3 aces. I mean, nobody, I don't care if you're the reigning Champions League MVP. You're not seeing the court over that.
I really liked how Perugia's offense was so spread out. 16 for Rytlicki, 18 for Leon, 15 for Soleil, 14 for Russo. I mean, their blocking was insane. 15 blocks for Perugia in this one, and then another 18 for Plotnitsky, just spreading that offense like peanut butter on toast.
Yeah, Gianelli's doing a phenomenal job in Perugia, earning that Block Devils nickname for sure. And yeah, you're right about Wilfredo Leon. He started on the bench because it's hard to blame Perugia for thinking they could get this done with Semeniuk and Plotnitsky, as good as those guys are. And Berlin gets all the credit. They come out and take the first set in overtime, show some clutch, and then they have to bring Leon off the bench at some point to kind of rescue things. And he certainly helped. He had 4 blocks as well, including the one that won the 4th set to clinch the series for Perugia. So it's crazy that a guy like Leon, being the best player in the world, can start on the bench and just be kind of chilling, ready to go if his team needs him, come in and just totally take command like that. He's so special.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to the next one. And I'm going to say, Rob, I called it. It didn't happen quite as easily as I thought it would, but eventually they got the job done. Halkbank ANKARA wins 15-12 in the golden set here. Lube was fantastic throughout this match. But hey, you got to get the job done when you got the job done. How about Ivan Zaitsev, though? My goodness, looking like a youngster out there, 31 for 48, 65% hitting, 32 points overall, but all for naught really at the end of the day as ANKARA wins that golden set.
It was the best I've seen Ivan Zaitsev play since he was like 25. He was absolutely automatic. His only area where he kind of struggled was the service line. He didn't really take over in that area, but he was untouchable offensively. And the difference for Lube for sure was reception. We talked about it last week after that first leg where Halkbank served him off the court. Nikolov couldn't pass the ball. Botolo couldn't pass the ball. Like nobody could pass the ball. And this time for Lube, it was significantly better. Still 9 aces for Halkbank is a lot, but Lube's passing percentages were at least like able to keep them competitive. And Lube did a better job, not a great job of mitigating their errors. But I mean, really, Lube was the better team in the match. But kind of like I said in the last show when we talked about this, even if Lube wins that one 3-0 or 3-1 to force a golden set at home, which they did, you're not stopping Namir Abdelaziz in a do-or-die game to 15. You're not going to stop him. He is too singularly dominant. He is too strong-willed. He is too good to when the game gets onto the line like that, game to 15 with the season on the line, Namir is just not going to be stopped, and that was exactly the case.
No, absolutely. It's too bad we can't put the stats from just golden set. The CEV website allows you to go set by set, but not the golden set, which, hey, come on, let's figure that out. But it was all Namir in that set. He was absolutely dominant. I mean, Jeski was good too. He had 20 points in this one.
Was really efficient. Again, 50% attack efficiency. It was awesome.
Yeah, but you know what? I called it. There's just a weird makeup on this Lube team this year. And I mean, if it wasn't for Zaitsev coming out with an all-world performance in 32 points, it just wouldn't have even got there, right? So
yeah, definitely.
But I do think that this is great building for this young Lube team. You know, guys like Nikolov, of course, getting to get out there and feel that Yant getting out there and experiencing that loss, because I think that's going to fuel them for years to come.
Well, we can talk about this later because we're not done talking about Lube in this show. We'll get to the Italian playoffs later on, but Lube's got an uphill battle to even participate in Champions League next year. As remember, you got to finish top 3 in the Italian playoffs to even get that spot, and that's going to be pretty competitive, as we'll talk about later. But yeah, Halkbank, well deserved. I mean, it's again, you can't overstate the impact that Thomas Jeschke has. Just that huge, reliable, legitimate offensive threat on the left side to allow Nicolas Bruno to be terrible offensively, to hit 0% on only 11 attempts. You don't need him to do more than that, because you have probably the best opposite on the planet and a legitimate big, mature, high-level scorer on the left side. So you don't need any more from that than Bruno. I'm really curious to see if Halkbank can match up with Yashimski in the next round, because that is a level of clean volleyball that Yashimski typically plays, especially with Toniutti at the helm, that Lube is just very, very different than. Lube gives away a lot of points for free. Yashimski will not do that. So I'm curious to see how Halkbank manages.
Yeah, it definitely should be interesting, but I don't think that JSW has the ability to score, has anyone who can score 32 points in the match, right?
Boye, if he's good, but that's a question mark for sure.
Yeah, we haven't seen that since the beginning of the season. Everyone's getting back on Boye. They have tape on him, and he's, he's pretty good at best. Pretty good at best right now. Is Stefan Boye. So it's really going to be interesting. Plus, you're really going to see, I think, that match JC over top of Toniutti. In that match, I think that Halkbank is going to want to really explode that.
That's going to be huge. But yeah, I see Yashimski as having more options on offense and being a better ball control team in general. But Halkbank's service firepower might be a factor too. So that's going to be a really fun series. I think that starts not this week, but maybe next week. Is that right for the semifinal legs of Champions League? Let's look at that really quick. 29th. So 29th is Zaksa versus Perugia. 30th. So next Thursday is the start of that Halkbank versus Yashimski series. Going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think so. Can't wait for the semifinals. It's going to be awesome.
Speaking of series that were awesome, oh my goodness, Everett. Trentino versus Zaksa. Again, it was the 4th match between these two we've seen this season. It is the 3rd year in a row we've seen these teams play at some point in Champions League, including the last 2 finals. Trentino wins the match in 5 at home, but Zaksa wins the golden set to keep the three-peat alive. This was one of the best series I have ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting more and more consistent now that when you see these two teams, they're developing quite a bit of a little rivalry.
Awesome.
It has been, though, quite one-sided, given the fact that Zaksa has won all 3 of those series. Trentino's won a few when it doesn't matter, like in pool play, but Zaksa has got it done in the finals 2 years in a row, and now in the quarterfinals in this one. But yeah, I mean, just 2 quality teams, 2 well-coached teams, 2 of the best organizations in men's professional volleyball. What else would you expect?
What else would you expect? And a friendly reminder, as you talk about games between these two that don't matter, like the 2 matches they played in pools, going all the way back to week 6, and I've talked about this a lot, but it really bears repeating.
I knew you were going to bring this up.
Absolutely. Trentino needed to 3-0 Zaksa in week 6 of pools to have a chance at the 1 seed. They did not do that. They lost the first 2 sets. Then, for some inexplicable reason, they kept the starters in. They ended up winning the match in 5 and got a significantly worse bracket draw, having to see Zaksa in the quarterfinals because of it. If Trentino had just lost that match like they should have done, they would have saved their starters a match worth of volleyball, which is big as often as they play, and they would have played Halkbank ANKARA instead of Zaksa in the quarterfinal. I would like to think that Trentino would match up pretty darn well against Halkbank ANKARA. They would have had a much better road. Instead, they give themselves 2 more matches against Zaksa, which I, as a fan, am never going to complain about because it was, again, one of the best series we've ever seen. 2 5-setters in a golden set. But Trentino's got to be kicking themselves. This was completely avoidable for them, just to manage the tournament correctly, going all the way back to pools, and instead they're out in 5th. So I guess you reap what you sow. But again, as a fan, this was just an absolute treat. I'll never get sick of watching these 2 teams play each other.
No, absolutely not. Honestly, give us more. Like let's just make a super league where they're all together in one big pool, all of the top teams. I mean, I guess that's what the Champions League is. But you're right. Like, just never going to get tired of watching these two teams compete. They play so similarly. They're two quality organizations. Like I said, just you gotta love it.
Gotta love it.
Looking at the stats from this one as well, Kaczmarek was lights out, 27 points. He was 23 for 46. He did get blocked 5 times, but no unforced errors. Zaksa was able to keep the errors down quite a bit, only 8 in the match, which is incredible considering they play. Considering they played 6 sets altogether. That's unreal.
Same on the Trentino side, though, like only 9 unforced errors. Trentino's serving numbers were pretty good. Like 19 errors in 6 sets is not bad. It's actually better than Zaksa's from the service line. But I mean, 19 blocks for Zaksa in 6 sets is a big number. 6 for Bednor's alone. Kaziski was blocked 10 times. That is a big advantage that I thought Trentino had. I thought that Trentino was the better blocking team in this matchup, and Zaksa blocked the lights out. That was a very pleasant surprise on their side.
Really? You thought Trentino was the better blocking team? Interesting.
They're bigger at every position. They're bigger at every single position. They have Micheletto and Lavia, 2 of the best left side blockers in the world. They have 2 monstrous middles who both dwarf the corresponding Zaksa middles. And then they have Kaziski and Spertoli, who are both awesome. I mean, that should be a better blocking lineup than Zaksa's. But give the Zaksa front court a ton of credit, man. They played great.
I do think that Kaczmarek is bigger and probably a little bit more skilled than Kaziski. Like, and he naturally slots in on the right side. As opposed to Kaczynski, who's traditionally a left side hitter, right? Plus, like Bednor's is big, as we can see. He got 6 blocks in this one. That's a
huge
for him.
Yeah, and Norbert Huber came off the bench and was key. About time we see him kind of have an effect on matches again. I mean, only a little over a year ago he tore his Achilles, which is a devastating injury. But remember, before that, last year he had a pretty legitimate MVP case in the Bundesliga as a middle. So it's good to see him get back to healthy and get some run and be significant. He had 4 blocks, 2 aces, 6 kills for 12 points in like 3.5 sets. That's awesome.
Yeah, awesome to see. This was a great series. Love to see it. Can't wait to see more of it. Sad that we're gonna have to wait until next year, though.
We probably will have to wait till next year. And now we get Zaksa versus Perugia, and the storylines there just write themselves. I mean, you got Semeniuk against his old team. I know we've got conversations in the live chat right now about does Semeniuk even deserve to start, which you could argue either way. Zaksa has won the last 2 Champions Leagues. Perugia, all they do when they're supposed to win is choke in series like this. So I'm just fascinated to watch this. Really, really excited.
Yeah, that's going to be another fun one. I do think that you're going to see Semeniuk at some point, right? Like,
for sure.
If you're Anastasi, you know that you need to put him in. You know that you want to see him up against his old team, especially once they go to Zaksa. But that could go either way. Like, it could either be really great or it could be very terrible.
Horrible.
For Semeniuk. Yeah.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it for Perugia right now.
100%.
Leon and Planitsky are playing like 2 of the best 3 left sides in the world, at least. They're both on another level right now. So fascinated to see that series starts next Wednesday, Zaksa versus Perugia. I mean, the Champions League semifinals are just the best because it's at least it's the 4 last teams in the tournament, and usually they're the 4 best teams in all of Europe. I think that maybe Trentino would have had a case if they were on the other side of the bracket, but regardless, the fact that we get to see 4 matches total between these 4 teams is just awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I do kind of wish that the finals was like a home and home leg as well. Like we see in the quarterfinals and the semifinals, just to get more of it. But I mean, hey, this is what soccer does, and we're just soccer's little brother.
No, I do like the superfinals. I think the superfinals is one match is a pretty cool deal. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, the semis have like just the home crowds in the semifinals are awesome. Like thinking back to Trentino versus Perugia last year, how amazing that was. This is gonna be fun. Gonna be fun stuff. And so yeah, 4 teams left in Champions League. This is the bracket, by the way, in case anyone's curious. I've gotten to this point. Matchups from here on out are pretty simple.
Absolutely. Kind of crazy that we only have 1 Italian team left, right? Like we've seen Italian domination over the past few years. One Italian team, two Polish teams, as you said, that could have been a little bit different. If it wasn't for some smarter playing. But hey, this is what we got.
Yep. So I think that's about it for Champions League, but that wasn't all for CEV drama last week, Everett, on the men's side. Sure enough, unbelievably enough, the Figure It Out a Week of the award, sponsored by Vero Volley Malonza, once again goes to Piacenza for losing a golden set to NAC Rusolare to be eliminated from the CEV Cup. What are we doing? Piacenza wins it at home 3-0, no problem. But because of laying an egg on the road the week before, they give up a chance in a golden set. Rusolare comes from, they were down pretty significantly, at least 8-5, maybe even 9-5 in the golden set. And Piacenza just could not finish the job. NAC Rusolare out of Belgium, who dropped down from Champions League to CEV Cup, upsets Piacenza, and they're going to the finals. Piacenza, figure it out, you guys. Why? What are we doing here?
This, to me, is just a team that gets a little too confident, right? Playing for a club that isn't used to winning, right? I mean, we see it at all levels. We saw it in the U Sports Men's Finals this past weekend. We're going to talk about that a little bit at the end. But when you're a team that's expected to win, like you need to get the job done. And they got the job done in the first match, 3-0. Absolutely. That's what needed to happen. You force that golden set, but it's just a set to 15, right? Dial it in, figure it out, and just get it done. There's no reason for them to be losing to NAC Roselare. This is tough. Yeah,
there's no excuse.
This is really tough for Piacenza. Especially, I would love for Ronnie to be in the chat and maybe he has some insight on how Simone feels right now, because he told us when he came on the show for his birthday about how, he views, like Simone talks about how, Piacenza as an organization just isn't up to it compared to Lube. And it's really interesting to think that what would have happened if Piacenza would have been in the Champions League this year. I think they would have crashed and burned. I really do.
I think they probably would have too. We talk about it a lot. There's good organizations in volleyball and there's bad ones. And there's a reason why the Figure It Out of the Week award is sponsored by Vero Volley Malonza on the women's side, and the Piacenza wins the award so often is because they're in similar spots in the way that their franchises are operating and just cannot figure it out. If you don't think that matters, if you don't think the quality of the organization matters, I mean, you can look at the results of teams like that versus a team like Trentino or Zaksa, who continues to play above their perceived level of talent. And so Piacenza, I mean, Robert Landy Simone was amazing, and it just didn't matter. 7 for 8, 4 blocks and an ace. Like, what more do you want from the big man? Yuri Romano, offensively, not good enough. Yohan De Leal, not good enough. Like, they just cannot figure it out. And when you have a lead midway through a golden set against an inferior team, there's no excuse for a team of this makeup to not get that done.
No, none at all. Absolutely not. But on the other side, big ups for NAC Roselare for getting through. We've seen, this isn't the first time that we've seen a lesser club. Like, remember Tools upsetting Modena last year? Like, it just seems the CEV Cup seems to be the place where upsets happen.
And I love that.
Yeah, I just think that maybe some of the bigger players don't care about it as much. If it's not the Champions League, it's just the CEV Cup, whatever.
Yeah, you can kind of feel that some of the clubs or some of the guys are. You can point your finger wherever you want, but when they see CEV Cup, they kind of think they're too good for it if it's not Champions League, just like you said. Modena last year, Piacenza this year. I mean, we even saw Modena, who will play in the finals in this CEV Cup. They kind of slept on Lundberg in that first match a couple of rounds ago before getting that one done eventually. But this does happen. It does happen when you have a team that takes the CEV Cup tournament more seriously. Sometimes that's all you need. And so NAC Rusolare does advance to the finals, where they will take on Modena. Modena got past Skra Belchatov on the road. And I mean, Modena is going to be the heavy favorite there, but NAC Rusolare's got nothing to lose and a whole bunch of confidence right now.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I do still favor Modena in that one. So
for sure,
we'll have to see that goes. All right. Do we want to the women's now, Rob?
No, not yet. We have one more CEV men's tournament to talk about, and that is the Challenge Cup. It is over. Olympiacos out of Greece beat Maccabi Tel Aviv 3-0. I mean, 6-0 in sets. Great. Congratulations. This should have been a Champions League team. They chose not to play Champions League and play Challenge Cup instead. They were by far the best team in that tournament. Good job. Have your hardware. Great.
Yeah. Let's keep it moving. Challenge Cup. The Challenge Cup doesn't matter, especially when you get teams like Tel Aviv in the finals. It did matter a little while ago. You had Italian teams there. But all right, moving back to the Champions League on the women's side, plenty of action going on recently in the quarterfinals. A lot of interesting stuff going down so far, Rob. Where do we want to start on the women's side?
So let's see. Last week we had already talked about Novara beating Stuttgart in the first leg and Eczacıbaşı beating Rzeszów in the first leg. So, but where we need to catch up is the two from last week and then the one that was earlier today. So let's start chronologically with last week's Vakifbank versus Malonza game. That was last Wednesday, and that might have been the best Vakifbank performance the entire season. They were on another level.
Yeah, they were. You could tell that they had something to prove, right? And they wanted to prove that they were still one of the best teams and that they could still rock it, because things haven't been going that great for them in the SuperLega. They've been a little bit rocky, losing 2 matches in pool play, and they came out and balled. Didn't even let Malonza get past 20. They just went all out for this one, and I like it. I like that they were able to put their stamp on it and be like, yo, guys, we're still here. Don't forget about us.
Huge confidence building game for Vakifbank. It was the best John Suozba has looked all year, setting the ball. It was probably the best I've ever seen Karabayama play, getting some nice support from the second outside position. Let's just look at some of these numbers. They killed 64% of balls as a team, 54 for 84 as a team, with only 6 errors. That's completely insane. Well over 50% efficiency as a team. 10 blocks in 3 sets. 61% positive passing as a team. Like just absolute execution masterclass by Guidetti's girls. They were untouchable that particular day. Nobody in the world was going to beat them if they play like that. And can they continue to play like that is kind of the question.
Most importantly for me is that you had Gabby and Agonu both looking at the same time together. Well, we really haven't seen that all that much. Agonu 28 sets, 21 points. Gabby had 24 sets. She had 18 points. And I think that was a big thing. Also a big factor. Jordan Larson was not good. She was 2 for 11 in this match and didn't start the third. That's rough when you have someone like Larson. I mean, Daviskiba only played that one set, only started the third set and came off the bench in sets 1 and 2 and had more points than Larson. So it's really tough for a team to succeed when one of your quote unquote superstars isn't getting the job done.
Yep, that's not going to work. Jordan Thompson was okay, not great. Just at the end of the day, Vakifbank was too good, and I really think it was a one-sided affair. Nobody was going to stop them that day. So that was last Wednesday. 6 days later, they played another match in Italy, and I think we might as well skip to the one from today, Everett. Which
so much for chronological.
Well, I mean, we're already talking about it. There's people talking about it in the chat already. Let's stick with the same series. Significantly better battle today in Milano. Malonza takes the first and the third, but Vakifbank taking the fourth set, getting 2 sets. They are able to advance. Really good match. A lot more balanced. Malonza was better, but not good enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, anytime you see Agonu score 36 points, you know you're going to have a rough time. She
36.
She wasn't that efficient. She was 31 for 74. She had 74 sets in this one. And once again, you see Gabby's numbers go way down. She only had 9 points in this one. So once again, I really think that they need to find that balance, because they demolished Malonza in that first match and then gave Agonu 74 sets. But still, I mean, it worked out. Also 19 points for Karabayama. That's pretty awesome as well. And on the other side of the net, Jordan Thompson, 25 for 56. She was pretty good. Larson bounced back and she was 12 for 31. But ultimately, at the end of the day, 41% hitting and 7 blocks was just not enough for Malonza.
Yeah, this was a good match, and it was a meaningless fifth set. Unfortunately, we sometimes get those in Champions League, but a very good match, significantly better. I thought Milano or Malonza, whatever we're going to call him, defended very, very well. I think they made some really good backcourt defensive adjustments. Larson was touching all kinds of balls. Jordan Thompson in position one dug a bunch of balls. Alessia Oro dug a bunch of balls. Credit to them for sort of figuring out the matchup and applying a little bit more service pressure. 6 aces for Milano, and Halkbank's passing numbers were good, but not as good as they were the week before. Hence, chucking 74 balls to Egonu. But Egonu was really good, and her former teammate Miriam Silla on the Malonza side, not good at all. 8 for 33 errors. So when you put the whole wing picture together for both teams, Halkbank still had the better performance.
Yeah, I mean, Malonza just needs to figure it out. They've got so many nice pieces, but none of them fit together. It's kind of just what we've been talking about all year.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
all right.
Malonza bows out of the tournament in tied for 5th. Halkbank is the first semifinalist. We've got a couple others to crown this week, but we got to talk about the other matchup, which was maybe the surprise of the year, Everett. An absolute demolition by Fenerbahce of perhaps the best team in the world in CONEGLIANO. Big old 3-dong, 19-17-19. Wow.
I'm going to say, not that I called it, but I kind of called it. In previous shows, you've been saying that you didn't really see Fenerbahce pushing CONEGLIANO and that you really need to get them off from the baseline. I mean, hey, that's what Fenerbahce did in this one. They had 8 aces. But ultimately, they just spread that offense out so well between Federic Seva, Anna Cristina, Melissa Vargas, all of them hitting into the teens. 14 for Federic Seva, 14 for Anna Cristina, and 15 for Melissa Vargas. The middle wasn't even a factor. They were just going high balls to the outside, and CONEGLIANO just could not handle it. They had a rough day. Especially in serve receive.
It was like one of the biggest lopsided momentum games of volleyball I've ever seen at this high of a level. Like the crowd in Istanbul was absolutely on CONEGLIANO from first serve. Fenerbahce came out, punched him in the mouth to start all 3 sets, 8-4, 8-7, and 8-4, like the splits that came out of the gate so fast. All 3 wings were absolutely outstanding. By far the best I've ever seen Anna Cristina play. Federic Seva was great. She had 4 aces, and Vargas was certainly good. There was just nothing CONEGLIANO could do to slow them down. Not good enough passing. Both outside hitters were pretty bad, Plummer and Robinson Cook. It wasn't Isabel Hawk's best game by any means. And
10 for 30.
Not good enough.
4 unforced errors as well.
Yeah, and it's just one that if you're Santarelli, who I think it's fair to call the best coach in the world on the women's side, his job right now is to forget that match entirely and try to fix it at home this week. That is all you can do when you get the break speed off you like that.
Yeah, they really need to try to force that golden set against Fenerbahce, obviously, or they're dead. But it just seemed like CONEGLIANO never get any rhythm going. Hawk was the only one to score into the double digits. They had, different players who just weren't working. Only 4 kills for Plummer, 6 for Kelsey Robinson Cook. Just no rhythm, and you could tell that to the injury to Alexa Gray. They just didn't have anyone to go to offensively on the left side. Had she been around, I mean, they weren't passing great either, so she probably wouldn't have been able to affect it. And I know Gray would have been a bit of an outlet. So it's going to be really interesting. When's that match? Is that going to be tomorrow or Thursday? This week
is Thursday. So the rest of the week, we've got Novara versus Stuttgart tomorrow. Wednesday, we've got Adzadjabasha versus Zhezhov and CONEGLIANO versus Fenerbahce, both on Thursday. Both bangers. The Turkish teams, it's very possible that we see 3 Turkish teams out of the 4 in the semis on the women's side.
That would be very interesting. Very, very interesting, especially since, the way that Fenerbahce has been playing. I mean, they do have to go into a hostile environment, and everyone knows it's tough to go into Istanbul and win games, especially with against a Turkish crowd right now that I feel has a lot to play for.
Oh yeah,
just emotionally. And Fenerbahce being one of the most legendary clubs, like not only in Turkey but in the world. I think that means a lot to them. Like they almost represent all of Turkey. So yeah, it's awesome to see, but very interesting to see Conegliano up on the ropes like this. They're going to have to play really, really well on Thursday to get out of this situation.
Yes, they are. So we saw 2 golden sets out of the 4 quarterfinal series on the men's side, and only 3 left on the women's side. Which one to you, Everett, do you think has the most golden set potential?
Oh, 100% Conegliano versus Fenerbahce.
I agree.
Right? There's no doubt. Like, we haven't seen Conegliano lose 2 matches in a row this season. They've lost so few. Like, was this their 3rd match lost overall?
Third, maybe, yeah,
like
maybe even second.
Yeah, maybe. Have they lost 2 games in SuperLega or just?
I thought it was only 1. They lost.
Yeah, okay. So this is only their 2nd match that they've lost all season. This is a team that is poised to bounce back. They have the best coach in the game, one of the best organizations in the game. I would be incredibly surprised if they let Fenerbahce walk into their barn and win 2 sets.
I know that the club has already posted that the Thursday night game is sold out. Like, you better believe that Conegliano crowd is going to be called upon to help them turn the tide in that matchup, and I'm excited for it.
It better be hostile.
Oh yeah,
it better be loud, and it better be hostile. Like,
Italian fans are occasionally loud, but they are never hostile, and I would like to see a little bit more spice from them after they got the break speed off of them last week.
Burkai in the chat is saying that Fenerbahce had UEFA EuroLeague, which is soccer.
UEFA EuroLeague is basketball, and then volley.
Yeah, EuroLeague is basketball. UEFA, I'm guessing, is that Champions League?
That's
or Europa Cup for soccer, and Champions League on the same day last week, and all 3 of them were played in sold-out stadiums.
Awesome. That's so awesome.
Wow. Would love to go and experience what a Fenerbahce game is like, because I'm sure it is absolutely bananas. But I bet you it's also going to be bananas in Conegliano on Thursday for this one.
Yeah, I think that Eczacıbaşı will get past Zhezhov no problem, and Novara versus Stuttgart in Italy, I would probably pick Novara there. But yeah, I could easily see Conegliano forcing a golden set, and I am excited to watch it. That's Thursday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern.
All right, gonna be a good one.
All right, a couple other things in CEV on the women's side, just to catch up with those other tournaments. We didn't have any CEV Cup last week. We had it 2 weeks ago. We already talked about THY beating Scandici. The second leg is tomorrow. So THY versus Scandici is tomorrow. Let's see what time that's at, because that is basically the final. Yeah, it's tomorrow at noon Eastern. And then Thursday is the other side of the bracket. Alba Blaj from Romania versus Targa Viste. Who cares? Whoever wins that is going to lose to the winner of THY and Scandici. So that's kind of it for CEV Cup on the women's side. And then Challenge Cup on the women's side. Chieri out of Italy as the inside track. Their second leg is Wednesday, tomorrow. So great chance they hoist that trophy.
Interesting that we see Chieri in the Challenge Cup, but no men's teams from Italy in the Challenge Cup.
Yeah. I don't really know exactly how the Challenge Cup draws work, like how the distribution works from the leagues and like what place you have to get into which tournament. Because I remember Milano on the men's side won Challenge Cup a couple years ago, like when Spertoli was there, and I think when Stephen Marr was riding the bench behind Ishikawa the whole year. I'm pretty sure they won Challenge Cup that year, but I haven't seen an Italian men's team in that tournament in a while.
No, not since then. And I mean, Stephen Marr did come off the bench to help them win that Challenge Cup, just to back up my boy there. Yeah, for sure.
Before we talk about Italian men's teams, Everett, because I think that's next up. What are you wearing over there?
Oh, just the 9x9 squared T-shirt. It's the only one that I didn't bring to the U Sports with me because it was dirty and it needed to get washed. But I had quite a few people ask about the sweaters, and hey, if you asked me about the sweaters, you saw me wearing it this weekend. You can get it here. That volleyball.store. Use the code SPICY to get 15% off all of your favorite 9x9 and spicy volleyball gear.
Yep, great stuff up there. Hit up that volleyball.store. Use the discount code while we still are feeling nice enough to give it to you. And let's see, how are we doing on the numbers for the video? 12 likes. We've got a lot of viewers. Let's give us a couple more thumbs up on this thing. I've got a lot of volleyball to talk about. If you're enjoying it, give us a thumbs up here on the video and join the Discord. If you're not already in the Discord, you're crazy. We've had a lot of people joining the last couple of days, so let's keep that going.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of Canadians joined in the past few days due to the youth sports national championships. All right, Rob, let's move on to the SuperLega playoffs. It was a fun first day of the playoffs, as we see there. Perugia going up 1-0 on Milano, Verona going up 1-0 on Lube, Trentino going up 1-0 on Monza, and Modena going up 1-0 on Piacenza. Honestly, it's pretty much like status quo. I know technically Verona is the lower ranked team, but beneath Lube, but the way those two teams have been playing this in the second half of the season, that to me is kind of flipped. Quickly, I don't really want to touch on the Perugia versus Milano game too much because, hey, it was 3-0, 22-15 and 18, but damn, Herrera 15 for 19.
Yeah, he was awesome
for 17 points. And on the other side, Ishikawa was 12 for 17 for a 71 hitting percentage. At the end of the day, Perugia was just too much. 41 kills to Milano's 31, and just way more efficient, hitting 68% as a team, whereas Milano could only muster a 45.
68% kills as a team is just ridiculous.
Yeah,
there's just nothing you can do to slow down a team when they hit like that.
Yeah, it was just dominant. Like, they dominated in blocks 11-2, dominated in aces 5-2, kills 41-31. They passed way better, 44% positive, 29% perfect compared to 32 and 17. I mean, Milano needs to do something incredibly special. Ishikawa needs to be hitting like a 70% with over 20 kills. And someone else needs to jump up. Like Magarego needs to have a much better game than 4 for 13 with a minus efficiency, getting with 2 unforced errors and 2 blocks for them to be at all relevant.
Not good enough. I think Milano's only chance is tomorrow at home. I think that is their only chance. All 4 of the quarterfinals, game 2 are tomorrow. All of them 3:30 Eastern. If Milano has any chance to stay alive, they've got to win that game at home. I don't see it. I thought it was interesting, the choice to start Jesus Herrera. Obviously, it paid off because he was amazing. But we've kind of seen most of the year, the move has been to start Rikliski and see what you get out of him. And if he's bad, you put Herrera in. But if you go 15 for 19, you earn yourself a lot more playing time.
I wonder if he was just tired, after the Champions League, match against Berlin that went to the distance. And I think another team that was tired coming to the playoffs was Lube, because it was a much different team for Lube playing against Verona. They hit 40% as a team. They had 15 errors and got blocked 7 times, did Lube. Ivan Zaitsev was a shadow of what he was in the Champions League. He was 11 for 28 with 5 unforced errors and got blocked twice. Just not great offensively for Lube. And I mean, it goes from bad to worse as they get kicked out of Champions League and lose their first round in the playoffs.
So this match was actually really good. I know it was 3-0, but I mean, 26-24, 31-29, 26-24, Verona wins. Like fun overtime, kind of like I predicted on last week's show. This series is going to be sort of a sloppy slugfest, like just a lot of big banging high swings, probably a lot of unforced errors. And sure enough, Lube is continued to break hitting error records on the year. What is going on with Marlon Yant? Why has he been so bad this year? 8 for 23, 7 errors, passed like trash, didn't contribute from the service line, just invisible out there. And I don't understand why he's not getting taken out of the lineup sooner.
I mean, who do you go to then? Botolo?
I guess.
But even then, like, he wasn't great and he got pulled off, right? So it's really between Botolo and Yant. Although when you're looking at the numbers here, I don't know why you would take off Botolo instead of Nikolov instead of Yant, because like Nikolov or Botolo was passing better than Yant, much better than Yant, in fact, and was hitting better, and was serving better. So yeah, just interesting choices there by Lube in general. I think that they probably should have taken off Yant instead of Botolo and put on Nikolov instead. But maybe Yant is a little bit overrated. Let's be honest. Like, he doesn't even start for Cuba, right? Lopez and Guerrero. So maybe this is a guy that's just a little bit overrated and has only really succeeded on a Lube team where, there's a fantastic setter and there's so many other pieces around him to get the job done. Like last year, when you've got Robert Landy Simon, he's going to draw so much attention from the defense and from the block that you're always going to have more opportunities. Whereas now it's just not the same Lube team. They're passing out of system way more. And he's getting targeted quite a bit more.
So I have a question, Everett. Last year, Lube won the Scudetto kind of on the shoulders of Robert Landy Simon and one of the best series we've ever seen by Luciano Di Cecco. Just was brilliant in last year's final. They lose Simone to Piacenza. They lose their former spiritual leader, Osmani Wantarena, to the Chinese league and then Turkey. Who's the leader on Lube's team right now?
That's the big question for me. And I think at times it's Zaitsev, but I don't think, even when he with Italy, I don't think he's ever been like the leader.
No.
He's a guy that goes out there and scores a lot of points, but I don't think he's the emotional leader. And this to me is just a team that doesn't have much leadership. The Checo's not a leadership guy, right?
No.
I would rank like
Checo can phone it in every so often, and I think he's kind of starting to do that this year.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I just think that there's a lot of averageness and they really need that leader. I think even if you just had Simone on this team without Wantarena, like it would be a much different situation. Because, we've seen Gabby Garcia struggle. We've seen Botolo be kind of average. We've seen Yant struggle. Nikolov isn't even 20 years old. He needs a lot of guidance, but you're not getting it. Like you got Chininyeze, who's quiet. Zaitsev, who isn't like, he's very much I'm not going to say he's not a team player, and that's not at all what I'm alluding to, but he's I take care of myself kind of guy, and I do my job kind of guy, and he's not really the type to like lift up the other players. So yeah, just a huge lack of leadership. And you're playing against a Verona team that has something to prove, right? And they want to go out there and prove that they can be among the best. And I mean, hey, with this result, it could be interesting. I mean, a smarter team is going to go at them a little bit harder from the baseline, but I don't know if they truly have the ability to do that.
Yeah, 7 aces for Lube. I mean, they're targeting a lot of Nomori Keita, which we've seen work well for teams that play against Verona this year. But all you have to do if you're Verona is keep the ball alive on first contact. It doesn't have to be good. All you have to do is keep it alive, because the trio of Sapochkov, Keita, and Rock Mozic might be the best 3 out-of-system attackers together in the world. Like that is unbelievable luxury to be able to pass so badly and beat Lube 3-0 like that. And Keita offensively fantastic, reception terrible, absolute liability as usual. But if Verona can continue to get away with it like that, watch out.
Yeah, 100%. I do think that you're seeing guys like Chininyeze. He only has 8 serves on the day, right? Which means he's going out and the other team is sliding out on him every single time.
He's been float serving. I looked at that actually at the end of the season. Like I was expecting to see more of an impact from Chininyeze's serving. He has barely jump spin served at all this year. I think they haven't been happy with his consistency, and they've got too much error proneness elsewhere in the serving lineup, and they've kind of told him to stay down. So he's basically lollipopping a ball in every time.
Yeah, 100%. You're giving Botolo the green light. Yant has been terrible. He had 5 serves with 3 errors, no aces. Nikolov was a little bit better. I think he was serving coming off the bench. He went 3 aces with 3 errors. Zaitsev, of course, gets the green light as well. But they just don't put that much pressure on, and I haven't really seen much serving strategy, especially when you look at how many times like Guini, the libero for Verona, is getting the ball served at him the most, and he's passing 70% positive, 30% perfect, whereas Keita has 8 or 9 less attempts and he's 22% positive and 11 perfect.
Terrible service strategy.
Bro, if I go in, I do one thing. I'm like, hey, we're not gonna respect the middle whatsoever. They can score on 1-on-0s all day, and if they start beating us that way, then we're gonna readjust, and we're gonna give every single ball to Nomori Keita. Hell, we're gonna underhand serve it to him because he can't handle it. You're gonna move him around. Like, you're going to punish them for getting rid of Gord Perrin and making sure that they don't have someone else to go for. So this to me is just a terrible coaching play by Lube.
How does John Lorenzo Blangini not figure that out? This is a guy that's won Scudettos. Like, there are guys on this Lube team that should know better. I don't understand that. So if they don't adjust tomorrow on the road in Verona and have just a better all around approach to serving, Lube is done, and they're going to be out in 5th, and they're not even sniffing Champions League next year.
No, they'll be going to hang out in the Challenge Cup with Biakos and Tel Aviv.
Where that's where their old boy Jiri Kovar is, where he belongs.
Yeah. Hey, come on. No slander on Kovar. We like Kovar.
We like some things about Kovar, that's for sure. Ask the Discord what Jiri Kovar is famous for.
Exactly. 420 Jiri Kovar. All right. Yeah. Let's move on to the next game. Trentino getting the job done in tight though against Monza. I said it last week. I do think that this series is going to be a banger, and we saw it here again. Monza coming so close to the
almost reverse swept them. Man, yeah, Monza deserves a lot of credit. I mean, you go down 2-0 and you come back and punch back at 25-13 in the third. Like, I was watching this game, and trying to watch 3 games at the same time is never easy. Thanks, Volleyball World. But Trentino took out all the starters midway through the third set. Like, they were getting absolutely smoked, and I think Lorenzetti smartly pulled the starters. Like, all right, this set's over. Let's get ready for the fourth. But they weren't good in the fourth either. So Monza deserves a lot of credit. Guess who we saw start most of the match, Everett? We saw Cachopa back in mostly full-time starting setter role, which was great to see. He came off the bench in the first and played the rest of the game. That was awesome. Grozer was pretty good. Had a couple unfortunate unforced errors in the 5th, though. Vlad Daviskiba, not very good at all. Stephen Marr was outstanding, but didn't pass quite as well. And kind of like I said last week, if there was an opportunity for Monza to really have an impact in that series, right after Trentino's crazy game against Zaksa a couple days before, I thought that Monza's best chance to win the series was to take game 1. And they almost did in the reverse sweep, but it was a couple late errors in the 5th that kind of sealed their fate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this one was a battle all the way through. We saw Grozer kind of struggle in the first set. They started Schwartz. It didn't work out for Schwartz, so they brought Grozer back in, and he really figured it out. He was 21 for 35 on the afternoon, 29 points overall. And was just outstanding. Very interesting to see Cachopa, who hasn't set all year, kind of get it going now in the quarterfinals. It's going to be very
man. What could have been if he didn't get hurt?
Oh, if he didn't get hurt, this team's like pushing the top 5. I think, like it's up there for sure. They've been gritty all year. I think Jan Zimmerman coming in has been fantastic, but at the end of the day, we saw how good Cachopa was for Brazil at the World Championships and how he stepped in. And I mean, what I've heard from some of the guys in Monza is that, Cachopa might be one of the best setters they've ever seen. So it's good. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, especially game 2 heading back to Monza. I think that one's going to be a banger. I think this one's going to limit. I think Monza's going to win the next game at home.
Oh, Trentino loves 5 setters. Certainly, we see it from them all the time. Maybe they love 5-match series as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think they went to 5 last year with Milano in the first. Or sorry,
they went to 3 with Piacenza, and then they went to 5 before losing to either Perugia or Lube. Lube. They lost to Lube. That's right. They were up 2-0 in that semifinal series, and then got reverse swept in the series to end their season. I remember that. So yeah, they love going the distance no matter the format.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on to the final series. You know that this one has so much on the line emotionally.
Oh, yeah.
Modena, Piacenza, 2 teams that we expected to be in that CEV Cup finals. Unfortunately, we won't get it, but luckily we have the 5-game series here. Modena takes game 1, 15-11 in the 5th. Just outstanding overall. Where are Legumgia was pretty good, 16 for 32 with 3 aces. What did you think of this match, Rob?
Really, really competitive. I think exactly kind of like we thought going in. a lot on the line, a lot of high level names, a lot of guys that have been there before, a lot of super competitive dudes. Legumja against his former team, Leal against his former team. Just great names, slugfest, high level stuff. It's basically exactly what it was. Wasn't the cleanest match of all time, and it's not really going to be. 22 service errors from Modena, 24 from Piacenza. These teams do kind of need to go after it from the service line to have success, as we have seen from them all year. But it was cool to watch these wings. Like all three of them from both teams really do battle. And they're all so different. Like Tommaso Rinaldi compared to Ingapet, Legumja, Lucarelli, Leal, and Romano. Tommaso Rinaldi is a nobody by comparison, and he's hanging in there, playing okay, 19 for 21, or 9 for 21, sorry. Irvin Ingapet was very, very good, including fantastic in the fifth, but on the Piacenza side, not quite good enough from the wings. Actually, I thought the Lucarelli was pretty good, but Yuri Romano was not good enough, and I think that was part of the difference.
No, Romano once again struggling. He only hit 38%, and his efficiency was way lower than that with 5 unforced errors. That's just too much, especially in a match like this. But you know what? I'm not too surprised. I was expecting the offensive numbers to be a little bit better, considering it was a 5-setter. But hey, that's kind of what you get on this one. But you could tell, as you said, it was a slugfest from the baseline.
As in good point in the chat, Bruno from Modena, the MVP, he outplayed Antoine Brizard head-to-head in terms of setters, and it was probably the best match I've seen from Bruno this year. He did an awesome job with that offense and played really good defense as well. So I was really impressed by Bruno. See if he can keep that up, if something's kind of sparked in him now that Modena's in the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting for me to see if the old man crew of Modena can keep it going a little bit longer. But I think it's kind of the same thing on the Piacenza side with, Leal and Simone. But it's going to be interesting. I think this is another one that could go the distance. Sure. Either Modena is going to win early and get it done in 3, or it's going to go the distance.
Sure. Yeah, I could see it. Probably my favorite series, at least of all the matches on Sunday, which were really good. This was probably my favorite one to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't watch it, just a little bit of highlights afterwards, as I was stuck in a Canadian volleyball hole for the past few weeks, but it looked great from all the clips and all the highlights that I watched.
Yep, very fun. So all 4 Italian quarterfinals, game 2 tomorrow. Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, all on Volleyball World TV. Of course, they're all at the exact same stupid time, but you'll be able to do the dumb multi-view thing or hop around with whichever matches are the closest. So join the Discord with the Italy channel. Will be sure to be popping off tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's going to be popping off tomorrow.
Speaking of the Italy channel, let's move on to the Lega Volley Femminile. They are down to, I think, only 3 matches left in the regular season. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think so.
And a couple fun results here from week 23, including
just a couple, eh?
Just a couple, including in the relegation race. Both the teams that are right now in relegation position, Pinerolo and Macerata, both win. This was crazy. Macerata beats Busto Arcisio, who didn't have Rosa Maria. They didn't have their starting libero, so they were understaffed for sure. But Macerata gets 3 points, and not to be outdone, Pinerolo gets 3 points against Bergamo, who's a playoff team right now. So crazy race there to make the relegation position even more competitive. And unfortunately, another L for your darlings, Firenze, Everett losing in 5 to Council Maggiore.
Such a good opportunity for Firenze to come in, and they got so close in 5, and they I guess they do make up 1 point. Like they're only sitting 2 points behind Busto for that 8th and final spot.
They did get lucky that both Busto and Bergamo lost, but I'm with you. It was a nice opportunity.
It was a great opportunity. We still have 3 matches left to go in the season. That was the 23rd match. So, just a little bit frustrating there for the bottom 3 or the bottom 3 teams in the playoff race: Bergamo, Busto, and Firenze, all losing. But if you're Bergamo and Busto, that's even worse, losing to the 2 relegation teams. And if you're the 2 relegation teams, how disheartening is it that you're like, there we go, we got a big win against a playoff team, let's go. And then you go and look at the other results and, oh, shit, The other team got a
They
win
won too.
So it's chalk and nothing's changed.
Yeah, that sucks. That's a tough break, but good for them at least getting some wins. Let's take a look at the standings really quick before we jump into another match or two. Macerata's got a lot of ground to make up, man. They're down by 4. I think Pinerolo maybe jumping Perugia is possible, but remember 2 teams get relegated, and Macerata with 3 matches left, not looking so good.
No, absolutely not. Sitting a whole 2 games behind. Like they basically need to run the table and have Perugia have something bad happen to them.
Right. Really good match by Claire Chaussee, though, out of University of Louisville. She was really good, so that was cool.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. It is still going to be interesting, I think, with Firenze, because they are sitting only 2 games back. Let's see who they have to play. Though Conegliano, Malonza, and Scandicci.
Ouch. That is an impossible schedule.
You have to play the top 3 teams in the league in your last 3 games. And then if you look at Busto, they've got Casalmaggiore, Perugia, and Monza. So definitely 2 winnable games. And depending with what Monza is doing these days, we never know. And finally, Bergamo has to take on Chieri, Scandicci, and Casalmaggiore. So of those 3 schedules, Busto definitely has the easiest one with one of the lesser teams.
That is a great point. So playoff race looking pretty dramatic with 3 matches left to go. Same with the relegation race. But we also saw a potential finals preview, Everett. We saw Conegliano versus Scandicci, which was awesome. Conegliano wins it 3-1. Scandicci couldn't quite get any security with the opposite position. Mingardi started and was okay, but not great before they brought in Antropova, and they handcuffed themselves in the foreigner limit by doing that because they gave Diao the start at setter, which means you have 1 less foreigner spot than you can play with. So to bring in Antropova, they had to bench Haley Washington, and that is not anything that you ever want to do with one of the best middles in the game. So Conegliano wins. Catherine Plummer, pretty good, passed the ball well. Isabel Hawk was great, 20 for 37. And I will put it on the record right now that I think this is a finals preview.
Yeah, definitely. Without a doubt. Scandicci has been very good as of late. But they just don't stack up against Conegliano. The only chance is that if Malonza catches fire right at the worst time for Scandicci, right at the best time for them. But I really don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't see it either. So yeah, good for Conegliano. I wonder how soon they can clinch the 1 seed. I know they're at least actually they might already have it. They're up by 7 points. No, not yet. They're up by 7 points with 3 matches left to play, but they're in a very good spot. And Scandicci is 4 points clear of Malonza in 3rd, so they're looking like they're going to take the 2 seed.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting once we get. I think the playoff series, any games that Conegliano aren't in are going to be interesting, but past that, I think the playoffs are going to be fantastic.
Yeah, totally agree. So coming up this week, we've got a Saturday game, Scandicci and Cuneo, and then a whole bunch of Sunday games. Malonza versus Novara is pretty good. That could be for the 3 versus the 4 seed, and then Pinerolo versus Macerata head-to-head. Must win for both.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more European headlines before we lean on Everett for some U Sports coverage. The only thing I saw in Poland was that Skra Belkatov won again, and they beat Jastrzębski in 5. I think there might be a little bit of like a freeing feeling going on there from firing their stupid president. So good for them, but otherwise no real movement in the Bundesliga. But I did see the Bundesliga is ready to start their playoffs this weekend.
Yeah, finally we're getting the Bundesliga playoffs after like the quasi playoffs that we've been having, where they grouped off 1 through 4, then 5 through 8. Interesting. Lumberg taking down Düren this week. They get the number 2 seed. Friedrichshafen finally gets a win over Berlin, 3-1. So the playoffs are going to look like this: Berlin taking off Unterhaching, Düren against Hersching, Lumberg against Netzhoppers, and Friedrichshafen over Gießen.
Yep. So 8 teams in the Bundesliga playoffs. I think that starts this weekend.
Yeah, I do believe that starts this weekend and
Saturday and Sunday.
As per usual, definitely check out the Bundesliga on the men's side. Bounce House over on Spontent on Twitch. Has the best broadcast in volleyball, bar none.
Fantastic.
Even if I don't understand a word of German, it is the best. It's one of the few that actually does it in full 1080p and not 720 like we get on Volleyball World TV. What am I paying for? I don't even know. But yeah, definitely check out the men's playoffs. Lundberg against Netzhoppers is going to be going down. It's at 5:30 on Saturday. So that's like what?
That's 12:30 Eastern Saturday.
12:30 Eastern. And then 3 p.m. Eastern will be Berlin against Munich. And then 3 p.m. So that's going to be 10 a.m. On Sundays, Dern versus Hersching. And then 12:30 once again for Friedrichshafen against Gießen on Sunday. So you can watch them all. There's no games going on at the same time.
Amazing. How about that?
Figure it out.
Figure it out. Those are best of 3 match series, by the way, in the quarterfinals in Germany.
Yeah. All right.
Speaking of leagues that are about to start their playoffs, I think the LNV in France, the last week of their regular season is this week, right? And then the playoffs start.
Yeah, I think right too. As I'm not entirely sure. My finger has been quite a bit off the pulse for the past 2 weeks. Thankfully, Canadian volleyball is done here, so I can jump back into it. And it does look like there is one more week. You're right. Yeah, Journée 26. They have 14 teams in the league, home and away. This will be the last week to watch. Interesting races, not really.
Yeah,
like to get into Montpellier is holding on to that last spot. They're 11 points ahead of Poitiers, so they won't be getting in. And
then Cambrai is getting relegated for sure. So yeah, wow, that's actually probably the least dramatic last week of the regular season you could ever have. Funny.
Yeah, like the only thing that could happen is like Chaumont and Nantes could switch. Narbonne and Tourcoing could switch there because they like in the 4-5 spot. Saint-Nazaire could maybe catch Tourcoing, but yeah, it's pretty spread out so that like this is pretty much what we're going to get. Tours in first, Nantes in second, Chaumont in third, Narbonne in fourth, Tourcoing in fifth, Saint-Nazaire in sixth, who they've dropped quite a bit. They were one of the top three all season, Set in seventh, and then Montpellier in eighth.
Yep, so that's it. If anything fun happens there, we'll bring it to you next week, but I doubt it personally. All right, Everett. One other big piece of news we've got to cover before we talk about U Sports.
Huge piece of news.
Huge news.
We arguably should have started the show with this.
Certainly could have. Our early reactions to the pools that were drawn for the Olympic qualification tournaments. We've got the women's on the screen right now because it's happening first. 3 pools in China, Japan, and Poland. Canada gets drawn in China with Serbia, Dominican Republic, Netherlands, the Czech Republic, Mexico, and Ukraine. My United States gets drawn to Poland with Italy, Germany, Thailand, Colombia, Korea, and Slovenia. What are your thoughts on Canada's chances to qualify for the Olympics playing against those other 7 teams in China in September?
I mean, there's no doubt that this is going to be a difficult, like all 3 pools are difficult to a degree, but I think we might have the easiest pool. Serbia is the favorite. China has not been good and has been struggling, and it's not the usual China. Yes, they're going to be playing at home, but they don't have Zhu Ting. Like, they don't have their squad that they usually do. The Dutchies have been up and down. I would absolutely love to beat the Dominican Republic in this situation, and we've kind of been in that scenario recently. And then Czech, Mexico, and Ukraine, thank you for participating. Have a cookie. You can get going. I think that's kind of the situation in all 3 of the pools where those bottom 3 teams are just like, thank you very much for participating. And then the top 5 really have a shot. But when I look at like Pool B, Japan is really tough to beat. They're better than China. Brazil is Brazil. Turkey is Turkey. They're fantastic. And then you look at Pool C with Poland, Italy, and the USA. Germany is pretty solid, and Thailand's a really tough team to beat. I love where we are because I look at the teams ahead of us and I see 3 winnable games. There's only one of those games that to me is like all right, we'll take the
And
loss.
that would be Serbia. Yeah.
100%. But everything after that is going to be, winnable games. Do I think we have the depth in a tournament like this where you're going to have to play 7 matches? Maybe not, right? But I love the pool that we're in. I don't think we could be in a better position.
Okay, so let's see if the Canadian women can head to the Olympics. Has your women's team ever played in the Olympic Games?
I don't think so. Maybe like 84 when all of those Eastern Bloc teams
They boycotted
out.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about Pool C for Team USA?
Great. I feel great. We can beat every team in that pool easily, with the exception of Italy. Poland on the road may be a question mark, but and we can match up okay with Italy on the women's side. Germany, Thailand, Colombia, Korea, Slovenia, no problem. So I really like the USA's chances. I think the hardest pool, like the pool with the 3 best teams, is Pool B. Japan 100%. And Brazil, like that World Championship rematch is going to be amazing. Brazil versus Turkey, like those fan bases alone will be amazing to watch. And Turkey versus Japan, so drastically different in style. Like those 3 teams battling for 2 spots at the Olympics, that I think is going to be the most fun drama in the women's on the women's side in this whole tournament. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that Belgium is still a very, very good team.
They probably the best of those 4 seeds if I had to pick, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, probably. Like they're better than the Dutch and Germany. I don't think they're better than us. I'm pretty sure we beat them at VNL. But when you look at the bottom half of that pool, Bulgaria, Puerto Rico, Argentina, Peru, that's where it gets a little bit iffier. I think Peru, Puerto Rico, and Argentina are better than Czechia, Mexico, Colombia, and Korea. But Bulgaria is weaker than Thailand and Canada.
Right, I agree. So, I mean, a lot of these, like, I still don't understand this tournament. It's 7 matches in 9 days. That's absurd. And like at least 2 of the teams, if not 3 in every pool, have absolutely no business being there. So I don't really understand that. Let's spread this tournament out and give spots to teams that actually have a chance or might deserve to actually go to the Olympics.
By the way, Canada did qualify for the Olympics on the women's side, 96 in Atlanta. I'm guessing that's due to the fact that the USA was already qualified as being the host.
Yeah, I probably got through Norseca a little bit easier. Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly.
So that's it for the women's side. Let's take a look at the men's. This draw we were talking about last week. Everybody was hoping for the pool with China and Everett. Congratulations. Canada has won the lottery. Canada is in Pool C with China, Poland. Good luck. Argentina, the Netherlands, Mexico, Belgium, and Bulgaria. What are your thoughts on that pool?
All in all, this might be the toughest pool top to bottom, right? Like China is kind of a gimme, right? But we saw Mexico last year really play Bulgaria tough, and like they got a win at the World Championships. You still have Belgium when you have Bulgaria, but it's the easiest pool to potentially win. Of course, not having anyone but Argentina would have been nice. Argentina is, of course, our kryptonite, the ones who beat us back in the 2020 Tokyo Olympic race and knocked us out and made us go to that last chance qualifier. So that was a little bit tough. But when you look at how some of the other pools like break down, I like this way better. China is, of course, the easiest of the 3 hosts without a doubt, by far. So that's going to be super easy. The Dutch they're one player deep, and that's Namir. And traditionally we play the Dutch really easy. I don't care what Berkay is saying, or someone is saying, oh yeah, Berkay is saying that we're not going to beat them. Whatever. You guys go lose at Denmark again.
Yeah, Berkay also thinks that Turkey is going to beat the United States in Pool B. There's not a chance in the entire world.
Not a chance. But then Mexico, Belgium, and Bulgaria.
I will say those three teams, Mexico, Belgium, Bulgaria, as far as seeds 6, 7, and 8 go, by far the best out of any pool. By far the toughest.
100%. When you're looking at Pool B with Tunisia, Egypt, and Finland, like, can we spread the African teams up a little bit? Like, why are we putting them in the same pool? What's going on here?
Because it's volleyball, Everett. We have to draw lots. That's what we have to do, and that's what happens sometimes. Embarrassing.
And then in Pool A, Germany and Czechia. I think Czechia, especially, like they've got. I know they haven't had that much success, but when you look at the collection of athletes that they have across different pro leagues, like if you bring them all together, they could be good. And then Qatar, thank you very much for participating. Whatever. And Berkay is going, nuts in the chat about Turkey losing to Denmark. It's whatever. But yeah, Pool A, I think is pretty tough with Brazil, Italy, Iran, and Cuba as well.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun pool in Brazil. Italy at Brazil is going to be an amazing match. Iran can beat anybody and lose to anybody. Cuba can beat anybody and lose to anybody, and kind of Ukraine as well. I mean, we saw them have a miracle run at the World Championship, but you never know. I don't know how sustainable that is. So I think that pool could be a lot of chaos. I am thrilled with the United States' draw. I'm not sure that this could have gone any better. So the United States with Japan in Pool B, we get Slovenia as the 3 seed. We can definitely beat them. We get Serbia as the 4 seed. We can beat Turkey in the 5th, no problem. And then Tunisia, Egypt, Finland. And the best part about that is that we can play the bench against Tunisia, Egypt, and Finland and still win those 3 games to keep the guys fresh for 4 games in 9 days instead of 7 games in 9 days. And I love that. I absolutely love that we can legitimately rest the starters in a couple of these games and still not have to sweat. That's an amazing draw for us.
Yeah, 100%. Berkay in the chat. We really needed a USA, Canada, Cuba, Turkey, Finland volleyball source nightmare group just for the vibes. That would have been such a fun group with some of the more biased people,
vocal Discord members.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to see Cuba and Finland in the same group just to see Ronnie and Beandog go after it. But you're right. Pool B is kind of right for the taking for you guys. And you have a lot of opportunities to rest your guys, whereas both other pools, you don't really have that as much. There's one gimme game in Pool A with Qatar, but in Pool C, I guess you do have the one gimme game with China.
Yeah, and that's really it. I mean, Mexico is no gimme. Ask Bulgaria. They're also in that pool. They know how that went at the World Championship. And I think Belgium is a team who's slipped so far down the world rankings on the men's side that we kind of forget that they're actually kind of good. I know they had a really bad Euro volley last time out, which is why they've dropped down so far. But Belgium is a little bit scary too. So top to bottom, Pool C is very hard, even though you get the easiest host in China.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be really dependent on which of our athletes come back. And yeah, it's that. That's all I'm going to say about that, because our national team might be an interesting situation this summer.
Well, it certainly will be, and we've got a lot to follow along with the Canadian program as Samelvood takes over. We get to VNL and all that, but it starts, as far as Canadian volleyball goes, it starts right here. Everett, you were there. The U Sports Men's National Championship in Canada. Trinity Western wins it a year after Ben Joe's departure and that disappointment of losing to Alberta last year. The Spartans hoist the trophy. Tell us all your thoughts from being there at McMaster.
Yeah, the 7th time the Trinity Western Spartans have hoisted the Tantramar Trophy, and to be honest, they were without a doubt the most dominant team there all weekend long. Big shout out to Adam Schreimer. He is the youngest ever coach to coach a team to a championship, only 27 years old. Like, crazy. He could still be the guy for the national team. He chose to go back and talk with Benjo over the years. It was really seeing that this was their goal, Adam wanted to be the head coach of this team. He wanted to lead this team. And I personally thought going into the season that it was maybe a little bit early, but getting to see him in action as the head coach, getting to speak to him, getting to hear him talk about his season. We did, a breakdown with all the coaches and a few players on Thursday as a part of the media team, just to get a good sense. I was blown away and so impressed by his maturity and his poise and the way he led that team. There was no doubt that this team was the most prepared for the national championships. It kind of blows my mind that they lost to Alberta in the Canada West final the way that they did, but it sounds like they just didn't play well. They didn't respond to the adversity of having to play at the Sawville Center, and the Sawville Center at Alberta is difficult to play in. So yeah, big ups to them. A few notes for me. First and foremost, I saw a lot of people talking in the Discord about how Sherbrooke got lucky. Sherbrooke did not get lucky. That was a really, really good team who had to play a Trinity Western team who played their best match in the final. 12 aces. 12 aces for Trinity Western in the final was absolutely bonkers. Jesse Elser had 7 of them. Remember when you guys were saying that Jesse Elser was washed up and wasn't even that good anymore? Yeah, Metal McCann, shut your mouth. Go take a walk, have a cookie, because he was absolutely unreal. The 3-headed giant that was Jesse Elster, Brody Hofer, and Henry Rempel on the right side was absolutely unreal. You can start to see, go and check out some of my highlight videos. Their first one against Montreal is up. Their semifinal against McMaster will be up in the morning. They were hands down the best team at the tournament. On Alberta's side, they struggled from the get-go. Right, they went down 0-1 Toronto in the first match of the tournament. They were losing the second, and they really pushed it back just on the back of Jordan Cannon, who had 31 points and was unreal. Whoa. Big ups to Jordan Cannon. Sorry, go ahead.
31 is ridiculous. I remember Cannon last year for Alberta being amazing, but was he playing left side this year?
No, he was on the right side.
He was on the right.
You could tell that. Like, first and foremost, Isaac Heslinga did not have a great tournament. He was not looking like he did before. Alberta really missed not having Max Elgert. Cam Curran is pretty good, but he's not Elgert just in terms of the way he runs the offense and his accuracy. The P2 position was a rolling issue. Jacob Sargent did not look good. They had to go to Bryce Newells, who looked a little bit better, but wasn't that much of a factor offensively. Down the middle, they struggle. Billy Johnson only hit a few good balls all week long. But yeah, we saw them kind of struggle against Toronto. They finally figured it out and just imposed their game off of the back of Jordan Canham. And you could tell that they were kind of ripe for the taking. And there was people in the Discord who was going, okay, cool. It's going to be a Trinity versus Alberta final again. And I was like, guys, like, Sherbrooke is a good team. Sherbrooke is a very good team. They were well coached. Jonathan Portorance, in my opinion, was probably the second best setter in the tournament behind Matthias Elser. Yoann David, I posted a clip of him today. The right side was an absolute monster and just a total beast.
He looked incredible.
He looked really, really good. First team All-Canadian, well-deserved. Zach Hollins was fantastic on the left side, and Sébastien Lapensée was so solid in serve receive on defense. You could just tell that everyone had their role, and everything knew what they needed to do. They had just graduated one player from their bronze medal from the year before, and I remember talking to their head coach, Fethi Abed. It's funny enough that the two best teams in Quebec are run by guys from Tunisia, and all of the best Quebec coach are now running our national team. That's interesting. Back when the Quebec wasn't that good, but this Sherbrooke team just dominated Alberta in the semifinals, and it was like they couldn't get a sniff. They shut down Canham. They served strong from the baseline, but ultimately they just hadn't seen anything like Trinity serving at all in the finals. On the other side of the bracket, you had McMaster take down Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan, I was a little bit disappointed with. I think they did really, really well to get there, and they faced so much adversity. I mean, Sean McKay only took back control of that team in September due to a whole bunch of fuckery that was going along with, administration and whatnot. But McMaster, you could tell that they had something more to play with. Preston's last go at the helm of that team. A big 3-0 win for them. And then just, this 5 straight national championships matchups between Trinity Western and McMaster, where Trinity Western has won 3-1. And typical fashion, they lose the first and then win the next 3. I know that a lot of the Hamilton media were being like, well, how did Mac lose? And I was just like, guys, like, Mac would have need to have played their best game at all of the season, and Trinity Western would have had to have a bad game to lose to the way that the Spartans were playing. But still, big up for Mac to figure things out, go back to the drawing board, and win that bronze medal against Alberta on Sunday. I was kind of thinking that was going to happen, and talking to some of the MAC guys after the semifinal, they were telling me like, "Hey, look, we've got a medal to win tomorrow, right?"
Yeah.
And no one wanted Preston to go out on a loss, right? Including the refs, I might say, because there was a few, not that many, but there was definitely a couple hometown calls, let's say, by the Alliance people. If I was on the broadcast, and we could see on the highlights that there was a few balls that were called out that were clearly in. But at the end of the day, like when Alberta lost to Sherbrooke in the semifinals, they were dejected, right? There was tears on the bench. There was guys who were just sitting there like with a 100-yard stare. And whereas Mac had lost the earlier game and was already ready to go, watching that final, scouting them. So you could just tell that Alberta just didn't have that much, that like anything left in the tank. Landon Curry, who I rate as one of the best liberos in Canada, suffered an injury in that semifinal, so he didn't even play in the bronze medal match. So big ups to McMaster for taking it home. It was an emotional moment, kind of everyone sending off Dave Preston. As that final point was scored, he kind of just stood there and soaked it all in. You could tell his coaching staff was kind of standing aside. And yeah, it was emotional. I managed to go and see him afterwards too, give him a great big hug, and thank him for everything he's done for the OUA, for OUA volleyball in general. I will have to say, Montreal ended up getting fifth. They beat Saskatchewan. And I think two of the best matches were the 5-setters that Montreal played. They beat Saskatchewan to get into the 5th place match, and then they beat Toronto in the 5th place match. Those were the only two 5-setters that we had in the tournament, and they're both really, really good. One thing I have to say, and this is going to piss a lot of people off in Ontario, the OUA is no longer the conference that is challenging the Canada West as the best conference in Canada. It's now the RSEQ.
Wow.
The OUA has dropped off 100%. And this is coming from someone who is a huge homer of the OUA, who loves the OUA, but the OUA needs to figure it out and get better. Windsor was not good. They didn't have a good showing. They got slapped by Sherbrooke in the first round. They were not ready for that heat, and then just kind of got handled by U of T again. Both those teams, both Sherbrooke and Montreal, were really, really good. Montreal gave Trinity Western a huge run for their money. You guys can check out those highlights. They're already up on YouTube. And they probably should have sent it to 4. Like, they were leading well after 20 in that quarterfinal match in set number 3. So I definitely think that over the past decade, we've just seen so much dominance from one school and one school alone, and that's Laval. And now, like, Sherbrooke is legit. They have a program, and let me tell you, I got to watch their CEGEP team play in Canada. It's a little bit different in terms of eligibility because high school in Quebec ends a year early. They technically end in grade 11, and then you go to CEGEP, which is like a preparatory, like college almost, and then you go to university. You can play 3 years of CEGEP without affecting your eligibility before going into university. So you can go in as a 20-year-old, having played college ball in the CCAA basically for 3 years without having any affecting your eligibility. Whereas you can't do that.
That's a lot of school, man. That's like
it is a lot of school.
Don't you get 5 in U Sports? Like that's 8
so you
years
can be
we're talking about.
25 years old, and I think that's a lot of why we see maybe some Quebecois guys not go pro, because like they're just kind of tired of volleyball at that point. But like I got to see the Volontaires de Sherbrooke, which is their CEGEP team, play at the CCAA Nationals, and like Sherbrooke volleyball is up and coming. So yeah, I'm going to say it here first. The OUA needs to figure it out. It's way tougher because they can't give the same scholarships as the Can West or RSEQ. And that's why you're seeing like there's Ontario guys on Trinity Western. There's like Isaac Heslinga is an Ontario guy playing for Alberta. The best Ontario guys are no longer staying in Ontario. And now that Preston's leaving McMaster, I think Ontario's about to take a huge step back. As someone who loves OUA volleyball, I'm very worried about the future of it. And I don't see The only candidates who I think would be able to fill in Preston's shoes right now, I don't really think they've already told me they're not going for those jobs. So I see Ontario taking a big step back in general.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have a couple takes and a couple questions for you.
Go for it.
One, I was really impressed by Jesse Elser. I know Matthias Elser was MVP of the tournament. He was awesome, but Jesse Elser, especially with how bad he was in last year's final against Alberta, to be that good and to just destroy people from the baseline like that was cool for him. And I'm sure that was very, very validating. I also wanted to shout out Dave Preston. Not very many people get to end their careers or end their seasons alone, but especially end their careers with a win. And it's cool that you guys play like 3 meaningful games on that last day of the tournament instead of just 1. And so congrats to Preston on having a sweet end to his career. And then kind of a question, but just generally with what we were talking about before with the future of the Canadian national team and it being just so uncertain with a brand new head coach who doesn't know that much about the lower levels of Canadian volleyball. How much of an impact do you predict, Everett, this particular group of U Sports guys will have on Team Canada in the near future?
I think this is gonna these particular guys are gonna have a huge impact. When you look at guys like the Elser brothers, both Jesse and Matthias, you look at Brody Hofer, you look at Jordan Canham, you look at Sam Cooper at McMaster, Landon Curry, guys like that. I think that these guys are going to have a massive impact on the national team, and they're truly the core of that national team moving forward. I've talked about it before. The B team that I saw in Gatineau last summer is very similar to the B team that I remember back from 2012, and that was guys like TJ Sanders, Nick Hogue, Steve Marshall, Rudy Verhoof, guys that really built the Maple Volleys moving forward. So I really think that this year is going to have a massive impact. I was talking to an agent who's been coming to nationals for a while now, and it's a guy who represents the likes of like Stephen Marr and Eric Lepke and a few others. And he was telling me that watching this tournament, there was about 7-8 guys who had the ability to compete in the top leagues in Europe. Like
7 or 8 guys.
7 or 8 guys who had the ability, and he, I
don't even know if we have that many in the NCAA. That's a really high number.
Yeah, and he's saying, that there's certain programs, and like Trinity is a program that builds their teams so that their guys can go off and play at the next level. Right. That's why we see them serve so tough. And that's exactly what he was telling me, that like you've seen how Trinity has changed the way that they coach their athletes so that they can go play professionally afterwards. And I don't think that necessarily some of the other teams are doing that.
Wow, very interesting.
Yep.
So, yeah, I know there's already a bunch of highlights that are already on the Volleyball Source YouTube channel, and there's more coming. Also, great job on the broadcasts, Mr. Delorme. It was great to finally hear you call some games. So that was cool. Pretty much all those VODs are up on like CBC Sports YouTube, right? In case anybody wants to hear your beautiful voice. Yeah,
all the videos on demand are up on the CBC Sports YouTube page. All of the baseline highlights are going to be coming out. All of the quarterfinals are up. The semifinals are going to be up tomorrow, and we're going to kind of keep them going. Big shout out to Andrew Lee from the Discord to come in and help me out. He was a massive help, and he's edited pretty much all of the videos, and I just have to touch them up, which is perfect, fantastic. He was amazing. So once again, big shout out to Andrew Lee. And next year I will be on the championships match because it was a little bullshit that I wasn't.
Good news.
Just doing the consolations, but hey. Sometimes you got to take what you're given, and I made the best of it.
Yep, moving up in the world. All right, last but not least, before we wrap up the show, it's been a long one. More U Sports on the women's side. UBC at home beats Trinity Western to win nationals. Am I wrong in thinking, Everett, that UBC was only in that tournament because they were hosting, and then they go all the way and win?
You're not wrong at all. I mean, this was a massive upset. I wasn't even expecting them to. I picked Brock to win that quarterfinal game. So the fact that they made it to the finals and won, to me, is incredible. I haven't had the chance to go back and watch it. I do know that I think it's Kayla Oxland, who the Oxland is the Oxlands are a very good volleyball family from BC that wasn't available and wasn't even playing in the playoffs all that much, and then was available for this tournament. So that was a huge thing. But yeah, War Memorial Gym, when it's as packed as it was, is a tough place to play. And you could tell from some of the videos. And big shout out to the GOAT of all GOATs, Mr. Doug Reimer, winning his 10th national championship.
10.
That's right. 10.
That 10 is a ridiculous number.
And yeah, I'm getting someone in the chat saying here, Everett, you were down on Dalhousie and they won bronze. You're right. I was wrong about Dalhousie. I thought that they would lose to UQAM, and not only did they beat them in the first round, they beat Manitoba for the bronze as well. But there is a ton of upsets in this one. I mean, other than Trinity Western, all of the lower seeds won that first round matchup, right? Dalhousie beat UQAM, Manitoba beat MRU, UBC beat Brock. So this one was truly a toss-up. And I'm going to have to go back over the next few days and watch some of the matches because, yeah, I obviously didn't get to watching them. But big shout out to the UBC Thunderbirds, and even more of a shout out to the GOAT of all GOATs, Mr. Douglas Reimer, for winning his 10th national championship.
There's some girl named Elise Petit on UBC that went 20 for 55 in the final. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty gross, especially for U Sports women's volleyball.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, yeah, and now U Sports volleyball is done, and I can go back and focus on watching professional volleyball, because I haven't really watched it over the past couple of weeks.
Good to have you back, my friend. Speaking of university volleyball, new #1 team in the country in the NCAA. It is none other than Penn State. Penn State is #1 now after Hawaii lost split matches with Long Beach over the weekend. So that was pretty notable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting really interesting in the NCAA. They got swept by Long Beach and then swept them again the next night.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, it's awesome. Rob, I think we need to look into maybe getting down to the NCAA Final Four. I think
I would love that. That is in like the first week of May at George Mason in Virginia. We'll see what we can do.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's it. It's been a very long show, probably one of our longest ones.
Well deserved. A lot of good stuff to talk about. I mean, Champions League was ridiculous. We had Italy, we had the Olympic qualification draw, and we had U Sports. So no shortage of good content. This is what you expect from us every Tuesday, boys and girls.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your plan for watching tomorrow? Are you going to be watching some games?
I will be watching some games. I will be in the Discord. Right. I will be with all of you. So a lot of volleyball tomorrow, both SuperLega and Champions League women's. So tune in.
Any interest in doing a live watch along tomorrow for some stuff?
Sure, I think that can be arranged.
All right, we'll let you guys know in the Discord if we end up doing that.
Yep. So join the Discord. Give us a couple more thumbs up on the video if you like what you're watching. This will be out on audio format as well right after the show if you want to listen to it that way. But yeah, same time, same place next Tuesday.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you soon.